Okay, so there was a Mountain Dew ad last week where this lady is brought into a police lineup room to identify a suspect. She's clearly been attacked, okay? And the police bring in several guys, black and Latino, uh, dressed as gangstas, and a goat, okay? And the goat starts threatening her, and she says she gets scared and starts screaming and says she can't do this and goes running out of the room. The only thing that's really had to do with Mountain Dew is the fact that the gentleman conducting the lineup was drinking one. Okay, so as you can imagine, I mean, these are pretty sensitive topics. Threatening a victim, a female victim, racial stereotypes, goats. These are things that you can definitely find yourself rubbing people the wrong way if you start talking about too much or making jokes about. And so it wasn't long before Mountain Dew was pulling this ad and offering their public apology. I love the public apology because I know that grief and sorrow and remorse is really what's on the person's mind and not, I hope this didn't hurt my public image too much. Fuck. But I know they're not really thinking that. I know they're totally remorseful. Okay. So, the really interesting thing is how so many people could be involved in producing the ad and not realize that this might not go well for them. But whatever. The question that I've been asked by everyone who's been sending me emails on my YouTube account, and I mean this in the most vacuous sense, is, so was that too offensive and too inappropriate, or was it okay? Well, first of all, to me, it wasn't really all that funny, but let's roll with this idea. What if, what if something was sort of funny, but it was inappropriate too? Is that okay? Or, how do you balance that? Some people are experts on this topic. Well, self-appointed experts who, or at least experts on one side of it, right? So let's think about that. Like, I mean, for example, there was recently an electronics convention of some kind or something with computers. I don't know shit about any of that stuff. I'm a 30-year-old guy who doesn't carry a fucking cell phone. So anyway, and these two guys were making dongle jokes. I don't know what a dongle is, but it's a two-syllable word, so I'm sure it could be construed to mean something about genitalia. And a lady in the audience became deeply offended upon overhearing these jokes and raised all kinds of hell about it. Okay. Now, I'm not totally sure that this lady was really an expert on the topic of humor. But she was an expert about getting offended. She's really good at that. Okay. So let's put her over here. Okay. And then over here, let's just pick someone from the other side. We'll take Riki Lindhome. She's she's been on a few TV shows, but she's one half of Garfunkel and Oates, a little band that performs songs about having a frightening lesbian experience in college and accidentally masturbating while driving a go-kart, that awkward moment and that face you make when you get a gift that you don't actually like, um, the desperation of turning 31 when you realize there's no men left to date. Anyway, and anal sex as being an appropriate alternative to vaginal sex in the eyes of God. Okay, so so she's probably pretty much an expert on humor, but some of the things she sings about are maybe a little inappropriate. Okay, so so you have Dongle Lady here, and you have Ricky Lindholm here. Okay, now nothing sexual, but say you were just going to spend an evening hanging out with one of these ladies. Who do you think you'd have more fun with? I wonder who would be the more stimulating guest. I mean, Ricky could make you laugh probably, but Dongle Lady would always. But if you were a Dongle Lady, you'd always know how appropriate you were being. Pretty tough choice, huh? Kind of reminds me of another place where we face this kind of balance. Eating. You see, some food's really tasty, and some food's really healthy. Some people are an expert on eating really good tasting food, and other people are experts about eating, preparing, or advocating really healthy stuff. Okay? But, there is a little bit of a conflict. I mean, I guess if you're one of these people who's like, oh, I just like just a salad. I just like a good salad just as much as anything. Or like one of these people on The Biggest Losers who's like, oh, that grilled chicken breast. Oh, it's just as good. It's so good. I used to think I needed pizzas and cakes and ice cream and milkshakes and blooming onions to have a satisfying diet, but now I can just eat this. Oh, I can just eat this grilled chicken breast, and it's just as good. Oh my God, what am I saying? Shit, I've been on this show so fucking long. This is starting to taste like food. Right? And there are people like that with respect to humor who are like, oh yeah, I don't need all that filthy stuff. I can just laugh just as hard watching a good old episode. I tell you, I can watch a good old episode of Wheel of Fortune, and I can laugh just as hard at that as I can, South Park or something. I don't need all that dirty stuff, that inappropriateness. Okay. Generally, somebody saying that is either A, forgetting that other people might not exactly agree with this point of view, and some people actually like cake and ice cream. Or, well, the equivalent of that in terms of humor. Or in reality, they just don't give a shit. It's like they're all like, yeah, I don't want any of that unhealthy food. You shouldn't want that stuff. What about the fact that it actually tastes good? That just doesn't matter. Fuck food tasting good. Fuck eating ever being satisfying. It just doesn't matter. And then the teacher in high school who's like, that's not funny. What I really mean is I wouldn't care if it was funny or not because I don't really care about things being funny. I'm willing to sacrifice all humor upon the altar of appropriateness. So the question becomes, how do you balance these two things out? I mean, obviously, I love food, but I don't eat just everything that, I don't eat just like gobs of fat and grease at every chance I get, so I'm obviously balancing this out somehow. how do you balance that out in terms of humor? Some things might be really funny, but they might be really inappropriate and wrong and just really distasteful and hurtful to whatever right or left wing ideology you're following. Well, I'll tell you what I use. This is just my little formula, just me, okay? This is the way I do it, okay? Basically, I don't find jokes offensive at all. Any joke about anything. That's pretty much it. So, it's sort of like if I was gonna, like, I had one day to live and you told me, like, okay, you're gonna die tomorrow, I'd probably eat only thinking about what I wanted to eat and saying, fuck what's healthy. Okay? That's pretty much the approach I use to humor. It's like, okay, this if I listen to this joke, I might find it amusing, but it might portray some sort of an uncomfortable stereotype. Okay, yeah, here's the thing. I don't really think that matters. I think I can handle that. So it's sort of like, oh, I guess this way. It's sort of like, who gives a shit? So yeah, that's what I use. Basically, something's humor, it's a joke, I don't fucking care. You want to make fun of white 30-year-old atheists who play bridge? Good luck finding a joke making fun of that group. But sure. If you can find one, go ahead. I don't give a shit. Okay, I guess if you watch my video on this, you probably actually want, like, a joke here, huh? Okay. A dirty one, right? Okay, so, okay, so this boy, he's like 15 years old. I made this up myself. And he goes on a date with this girl who he really likes. Well, the end of the night, they're parked up at this little isolated place, and they're in the back of their car, and they're making out. Things are getting pretty heavy. She's like on him, straddling him, and they're rubbing up against each other. Well, he has an accident. He basically just loses it. And he's pretty embarrassed by this, obviously. But things are moving pretty fast, and he knows that she's going to figure it out. So he decides he just has to tell her. And so he says, I just came in my pants. Now, this girl is actually very understanding and isn't giving up on the evening yet. And so she says, oh, well, can you come again? And the boy says, I said I just came in my pants!